Greetings everyone and welcome to the Hungaroring track guide. Hungaroring is a very technical track which is filled with corner combinations and turns which need heavy trail braking. The mentioned trail braking corners are corner 1, 2, 5, 13 and 14. The combinations are 3 and 2, 4 and 5, and the whole 8 to 11 section. Due to the complexity of the track, this guide will be a bit longer, but first let's see the whole lap uninterrupted. For turn 1 braking reference, you can either brake a bit before the 100 board, or if the track is optimally rubbered, there's a very sudden change at the white to dark line at the left, and I brake just a bit before that, like here. Usually I turn in by feel, but if you need a reference, there's a nice hat here, and you can turn in a bit before that, like somewhere here. As I mentioned in the briefing, you have to brake deeply into the corner, and at the apex you can either cut the whole curb or just barely touch the white red striped part. Both of these lines resolve the same time, so if you overshoot the corner a bit and to take the white line is not as bad. After the apex, apply the throttle very early. We have a lot of exit space, so we can drift wide without issues. At the exit, the track limit is this line for your right tire, but if you don't use all the space, it's not as bad because the track keeps turning and taking a shorter line results sort of the same time as the fully wide line. For turn 2, the braking point is very easy. It's just the starting of the white red strip. And we don't want to aim for the apex here. We want a bit wider entry because we will hug the corner for a long time. At the apex, as mentioned, we need a lot of trail braking in order to hug the corner for the whole section where the white strip is wide in the apex. You probably have to be patient and coast here a lot in order to keep hugging the line, and you will start to apply the throttle somewhen when this last white board goes off from your screen. I usually do it by feel, but this is a decent reference. At exit of turn 2, we don't want to drift wider than half of the track because we have to sacrifice the exit of turn 2 in order to have a very good turn 3 entry. Turn 3 is important because it leads to a fairly long straight, so we have to maximize the exit speed of it. In order to do that, we keep the car closer than half of the track, go as much to the left as we can, given with the time, and we will take the apex of turn 3 and maximize the exit, and we will do this whole section with flat out throttle. The switch point between turning left to right is a bit of a feel again. If you need a reference, it is somewhere halfway between this green barrel and the end of this green blue area. So it's somewhere like here. Ideally, at turn 3 apex, you just barely not hit this white red strip because it will activate your traction control a bit. But if you hit it, it's not the end of the world. It's better than correcting and lifting off or anything. Just flat out this whole section, whatever happens. At the exit, the track limits are here for your right tire, so just keep your right tire on the white red strip. For turn 4 setup, we don't want to keep riding the white line at the right. We want to come from a bit middle of the track in order to just barely aim this line with our right tires, and we will brake when we hit the white red strip, so here. At the apex, dependent of how stable the car is over the curbs, you can fully cut this part or just cut the white red strip. The trick here is when you start to hit the apex, you apply a throttle in order to lock the rear differential and make the car stable over it. It is a very easy place to invalidate your lap. The track limit is here for your left tire, but during racing I usually try to aim just use a bit less of this red-white part. It's only a fraction of the time, but even if you just kiss the green part, you already get a penalty, not just invalidation. For preparation to turn 5, you want to go as much as to the left as you can. You won't have time to fully set up the turn. And the tip of this angle will be around at the start of this red arrow. So here will be the most left point, and you want to start to trail brake from this point also. You will not be fully on the brake for this section. Usually it's somewhere like 60 to 70 at the entry part, because you are already turning in while braking. At the apex, you want to hug this line for a very long time, but don't go to the white part with your right tire, because it's very slippy and usually you lose a lot of time and drift wide if you try to drive on it. If you trail braked nicely and rotated the car, also if you've been very patient mid-corner and still keeping your right tire to the apex, you can start to apply the throttle surprisingly early. There's a few references like darkening of the white strip or this orange barrel or tires, or just do it by feel, but you can be very early on the throttle, and you should. The exit is a bit like in turn 1, so the track limits are here for your right tire, but since the corner keeps rotating or cornering, if you drive this line, you have to come back before the grass, but if you just keep your left tire here somewhere, it's not a bad line either because it's a shorter line. To set up the chicane entry, you want to drive this white red strip, so position yourself left when it starts to extend the track, and the fully on braking point is somewhere at the third of it. There's a few rubber marks on it during the optimal rubber track, so that can help, and the turning point is somewhere at the second third, end of the second third. And here comes the very tricky chicane. There are a few tricks here in order to stabilize the car and cut as much as you can, because you want to take a line where your right tire just barely hits this red sausage, and this is due to the sausage has a shape like this, and if you cut the whole sausage and somehow still not invalidate your lap, which is possible, the front of the tire will hit the sausage. But if you ride the line like that, you just barely hit the sausage, like halfway at the sloped part, it will bounce the car just as much as you can clear it. Also, you have to apply a tiny bit of throttle in order to lift the front of the car to help this whole thing, and lock the rear diff a bit in order to stabilize the car over it. The same applies to the second sausage. As you can see, the shape is like this. So we want to aim this part of the sausage with our left tire, and we are on the throttle fully this time. At the exit, you just want to keep off from the grass with your right tire. And here comes turn 8, which is a completely blind braking and entry point turn. Our best reference is this pole, so the parallel line to it, but it is very hard to see and you will be next to it, so you won't see it. I usually just do it by feel, and it's not as important, which I will show you in a second why at the apex. So the reason is why entry and braking point is not super important for this corner, because the apex curb is very wide, and usually cutting fully it, going on the green white red strip, or just barely not going on the white red strip results almost the same time. So it's not the end of the world if you overshoot it just a bit or undershoot it just a bit. The aim is here to take this line, and if you do that, if you under or overshoot a bit, it's not the end of the world. As a corner combination, we will both have to sacrifice the exit of turn 8 and the entry of turn 9. We will sacrifice around a third of it for both of them. So the line will be like this. The most important thing is to turn as long as to the left as you have to start to turn to the right. The turning to the right reference is somewhere here, where you start to see the darkening of the tarmac, and we will just tap the brake here in order to dive the car a bit and let the front grip a bit more, so we will have a better entry and rotation into turn 9. In turn 9 apex, the white red strip is a bit slippery, so you usually just want to ride the bottom part of it or go around it. Also, from this point, we want to fully be on the throttle until turn 11. The track limits are the usual, so it's the white red strip for your right tires, but because we have to set up turn 10 somewhat, I usually just use this line, so barely hit this part, and the switching point from turning right to left is somewhere at the end of this tarmac part. We will using about 2/3 of the track when we switch for turn 10, and we will keep the car completely to the left at the exit of turn 10 in order to set up turn 11. As I said, keep the car to the left as much as you can, and I usually drive just the tip of this white red strip, because if you ride the high part it can upset the car a bit, and we just want speed here. The exit is very easy to reach. If you did the turn 10 nicely, you will have a very small arc to the right, then to the left, and we want to use this arc to hit the white red strip a bit and just bounce off from it with a slight trail braking. So you won't brake fully here, just trail brake. And I usually use this rubbering where I apply most of my braking. At the apex, I usually aim for this line, so using a bit less of the apex strip. But if you overshoot it and even hit the grass a bit, just apply full throttle and the car will be stabilized, because the rear diff will lock and the left tires are loaded, which are on the tarmac, and the right tires will be a bit unloaded due to turning, so it's not the end of the world. At the exit, there's a lot of space here, but it's very easy to invalidate your lap. The track limit is here for your right tire. I usually aim this line in order to have a margin of safety, in order if I shoot it over a bit. The braking point for turn 12 is either the start of the white strip if you want to cut the apex strip, or at the starting of the white red part if you want to go around it. For turning point, I usually use this rubber ring on the left strip. If you choose to do the around line, just trail brake until the half of the apex. And if you choose this line, which I did with the BMW, just cutting the full apex strip, the trick here is to release the brake before it, and when you are on it, you will apply full throttle in order to stabilize the car. The track limits at the exit are the usual. Just keep your right tires on the white red strip, and we want to use all of it. So use this line because it's very flat and not slippery, so just use it. There's not much time and space to set up the penultimate corner. We want to go to the right as long as we can in order to have the maximum entry. And the tip of this curve is somewhere halfway between the pole above us and the end of the white red strip. So you want to be fully to the right somewhere here, and this is our braking point also. At the apex, we want to trail brake a lot, and I usually find the hugging the inside line of this corner faster, even with front engine cars, than doing the V-shape. So just hug the inside, trail brake a lot, then be patient in order to finish the rotation. At the exit, you should be on the throttle fairly early. I usually do this by feel, but using this HUD can help. If it's coming to your screen from the left, you should be on the throttle somewhere. At the exit, the track limits are usually not an issue, but we don't have too much time to set up the last corner, so I usually just keep my left tires left from this white strip. If you did the last exit nicely, you can almost use all of the available space for the last corner. and we will take a nice arc and start to brake somewhere at this white line, but we will only brake about 50 to 60% because we have to turn the car a lot meanwhile. This corner will feel like an eternity. You have to be very, very careful, and you won't have too much speed to do a lot of trail braking here, so just a lot of coasting will happen here anyways. Mid corner you can either hug the inside line or keep it a bit wider in order to have a late apex. Both are okay, just don't go to the wide part because it's very slippery and will kill your exit speed, which is super important because the long straight after it. You want to be on the throttle rather early in order to have a very good exit speed for the long straight. You can use references like this board or the HUD, or just do it by feel. At the exit, the track limits are the usual. Just keep your right tires on the white red strip, and you want to use all this space in order to have the best exit. It's very grippy, no slipping here, just full throttle and use it. And that was our lap around Hungaroring.